Thank you so much, Sneh. Good morning, UKZN students and staff. Welcome to the Tech Talk hosted by the School of Mathematics, Stats, and Computer Science, specifically the discipline of computer science. My name is Leena Rajpal, and I'm the Public Relations Representative for the College of Agriculture, Engineering, and Science. I want to thank you all for joining us today. Most importantly, I want to thank our guests from Mr. Price Technology who have taken time to come here to present to all our students and staff. I would now like to mention just a few house rules for the program. Firstly, the event is recorded. In terms of complying with the POPIA Act, kindly note that we would use the information from the event for publishing purposes. Should you not want your information to be published for the purposes stated above, kindly send me your concerns to rajpal@ukzn.ac.za. During the course of the event, all attendees will be muted with their videos switched off. If you have any questions during the presentation, kindly post them in the chat box facility where it will be answered. During the Q&A session, the presenter will give you a chance to ask the questions. Please raise your hands to the tech person so that the tech person can allow you to unmute yourself and pose your question to the presenter. If by any chance attendees interfere with the presentations, we will note your details and remove you from the event. Finally, the recordings will be emailed to all attendees present and will be posted on the CAES website. I would now like to hand over to Dr. Mandla Gwetu, who is the discipline leader for the computer science. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leena. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Computer Science Tech Talks, brought to you courtesy of the College of Agriculture, Engineering and Science, PR office. Today, we are hosting a prominent retail store, and the focus of the talk is data science. Students will hear about employment opportunities at Mr. Price. We'll also hear from industry experts in terms of real-life applications of data science. We also have a special guest here today, who's one of our alumni. He'll be sharing with us about his journey so far in the data science working world. I'd like to say thank you to Mr. Price for engaging with our students and adding value to the university. Our goal is to create industry-ready students, and initiatives like this are just the first step in that direction. I encourage all students to make the most of this opportunity. Please take notes and feel free to pose questions. We have a chat box that is monitored and questions will be responded to. We also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end for audible questions. Please enjoy, everyone. Without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Ray, who is the Talent Acquisition Manager at Mr. Price. Ray, over to you. Hi, Ray, are you here?
Hi, sorry, I got disconnected. Apologies for that. I think I'm back on.
Awesome, welcome, man. Please go for it.
Shak, sorry about that. Talk about timing to go offline. How's it, guys? Hope everyone's well. Ray Govender here. I am the Group Talent Acquisition Manager for the Mr. Price Group. I'm just about to share my presentation. I hope you guys can see it. If someone can please give me a thumbs up or a yay or a nay. If you can see my presentation. Okay, awesome. Thanks, Johan. Awesome. Yeah, guys, thank you so much. As I said, Ray Govender, Group Talent Acquisition Manager for the Mr. Price Group. I've been with the group for 11 years and a few months now. So yeah, I have had quite a long journey and history with this incredible organization that is the Mr. Price Group. So today, just wanted to chat to you around our business in a bit more detail, share with you some information on some of the career opportunities that exist in our business, and thereafter, how you can engage with us to apply for some of these opportunities. Apologies if you were part of the careers day or fair last week. I am pretty much sharing the very same presentation I shared last week, Wednesday, with the students. That was part of our session last week, Wednesday. Apologies that you're going to be seeing exactly the same presentation, and well, maybe you like the presentation so much you want to see it again. So at least I'm catering to that need as well. So yeah, without further ado, just want to play a quick video just showing you guys more about our business, the Mr. Price Group. Okay, cool. Hope you enjoyed that again, if you watched it again. Yeah, so I think I just really want to start off by sharing that I think from the first presentation slide, just wanted to illustrate the point again that we are more than just retail. And I think firstly, the retail industry is very much an underrated industry. I think a lot of the students that are on this call today, I'm not even sure if retail was even an industry that you even considered as a career opportunity or career sector that they'd like to consider. So I just want to highlight how underrated retail is as an industry. And if you look at some of the bigger organizations globally, the likes of Amazon, Walmart, very much organizations that is pushing the fields of technology and pushing the technology boundaries that exist in the world today. Those are very much retailers. That's their core business, is retail, and we are no different. We also exist in the retail industry, and just from a tech perspective, which you'll hear a lot about today, really very much leaders almost, or definitely very much at the forefront of technology from a retail perspective in this country and then ultimately the African continent. So more about us, yeah, in terms of us, we are on a mission to be the best, and you'll see that in the next slide. I'll unpack that shortly. But the Mr. Price Group, it's a fairly established business these days. We've been around for 37 years, proudly Durban business. So the picture that you're seeing is a picture of the head office or headquarters for the Mr. Price Group. And I'm pleased to state, because I'm proudly Durban born and bred, we also as an organization exist from a head office perspective right here in Durban. And that's very important because from a career progression and from a career opportunity perspective, all of the career opportunities that exist in this business very much largely are Durban based, and specifically I think the people we're chatting to on this call, if you are Durban based and if you want to remain in Durban, then all of the opportunities that exist with us also rest and live in the offices that you see in the picture right here, which is Durban based. Just to illustrate the size of the Mr. Price Group, I think also just something that maybe a lot of people don't really know how large this organization is, and also this Durban-based organization, how large we actually are. But as at today, at least because the business is growing, we have 1,700 plus stores across sub-Saharan Africa and in a few locations across Africa as well. We have more than 19,000 associates. So we call our employees associates and partners because every single permanent associate of the Mr. Price Group receives shares in the business. So that's why we call our people associates. So 1,700 plus stores, 19,000 associates. We are a 27 billion rand business. So very much a serious business, 27 billion rand from a turnover perspective, and a market capitalization of over 50 billion rand. So in anyone's language, this is a big organization. We JSE listed as well. We're a top 40 company. So guys, this is all serious stuff. So if you didn't know how big the Mr. Price Group is, I think you know now. We're not just a small little organization based in the seaside of Durban. We are well and truly one of the bigger players in South Africa and the African continent. Just to further illustrate just some more information from a numbers perspective and to illustrate the size of the organization, last year, we processed something like 276 million units of product through all of the divisions that exist in the Mr. Price Group. We have more than 6 million social media followers through all of the businesses or trading divisions of the Mr. Price Group. And again, that is a big number in the South African and African context. And we have more than 1 million monthly app subscribers or users as well that use our apps through the various trading divisions that we are named as or trade through. So enough about numbers. Like I said, we are on a mission to be the best because our vision as a business is to be the most valued retailer in actually that's a typo, in Africa, not South Africa, in Africa. We are currently number 5 in terms of the most valued retailer in the African continent. We want to climb and grow to number 1. So we want to be the best. Our purpose is to be your value champion. And that basically means we want to offer our customer product at the right price, at an acceptable level of quality, fashion being a key component of what we offer our customer, with an awesome experience and keeping convenience top of mind. So that is our vision and our purpose. Also to share that our business is guided by really strong values. Apologies. But really strong apologies, sorry, that's just a personal call that's coming through. Apologies for that. Yeah, so our business is guided by very strong set of values, and those values guide us and our behavior and the way we make decisions and the way we lead and run our business is guided by these strong set of values in the organization. And those values are passion. So everyone or anyone that wants to work for our business and works for our business and literally people that walk into the business speak about passion because they can feel it. It's actually tangible, the feeling of passion in our business. And it essentially means people, ordinary people in the organization doing extraordinary things. Value is at the heart of everything we do. We strive to add value in everything that we do. And then lastly, partnership. Anything that we do, any supplier that we work with, our customers are termed our partners as well. So anything that we do is built through this aspect of partnership and led through the value of partnership as well. So those are our core values. As I mentioned, and as you would have seen in the video, these are the trading divisions that make up the Mr. Price Group, and then they are backed up by the likes of a group HR team, a group technology team, a group logistics team, and so on. So there's a lot more than just a shop where people work in a shop and you have cashiers and people that work on a shop floor. It's much more than just what you see in a shopping mall or wherever you see us online as well. There's a lot more to the Mr. Price Group than that. So very quickly, just to speak around the career opportunities that exist in our business, and more specifically from a tech perspective, we have more than 200 tech professionals that sit in our organization. And I think maybe a lot of you on this call maybe didn't know that. And these are just some of the designations of these people in our business, from developers to project managers, to engineers, to architects, any role that you could possibly think of within a tech function, we would possibly have that in our organization and at various levels as well. So it could be a junior developer, it could be a more mid-level developer, and it could be a very experienced developer, and then a manager level, and so on. These roles work across a number of applications, from networking and cloud to software engineering to infosec to web development, database development, data warehousing, and then data science and analytics. So just to also share that any career field or opportunity that you think of from a tech perspective, you will be able to find within the four walls, in inverted commas, within a Mr. Price group. Quickly, I just want to share with you guys something that we have, that we target specifically final year students. So this would be someone that's in the final year of their undergrad or postgrad degree. It's something called a workplace experience program. This is an internship that we run every year in the month of July. So it's a 3-week program where we give students in their final year an opportunity to learn more about the business and learn more about a career in our business for 3 weeks. So this is run in the month of July. If you can stay in touch with us via social media, Mr. Price Group Careers on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, you will definitely see the notifications coming about around this. And hopefully, with our relationship with Leena and the faculty members, we will also share information when the actual vacancies are available, and we'll share it directly with Leena and team, so that they can also, if you miss it on social media, she can share it directly with all of the students across the faculty. Yeah, so that's just what you get out of the Workplace Experience Program. From a process perspective, if you want to apply to any vacant opportunities in the Mr. Price Group, our website is mrpcareers.com, and all of the information that you need around how to apply, how to set up a profile is on the actual website. The typical process that we follow looks like that. And yeah, guys, happy to answer any questions at the end of the presentation. As Leena and the team mentioned, you can also pose your questions in the chat box. We'll pick out some of them and we'll respond to them while the presentation is going, but probably more so at the end of the presentation. Sorry, I had to rush through the end. I'm at the end of my time, but thank you so much for being attentive. And yeah, guys, we are just ordinary people, so please engage with us through this hour, and please feel free to ask us anything, really. We're very happy to share our experiences of the Mr. Price Group, and happy to share any information, anything you want to know about our awesome business as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ray. What an interesting introduction to Mr. Price. Lots of stuff I didn't know. You guys have been going for 37 years strong. it's not just a retail store, but it's Mr. Price Group, awesome to hear about. You've got a technology department, foundation as well. And also standing out for me is the fact that you're in Durban, and to our students, please note what he said, that their app has got an average of a million users a month. So imagine what it's like being involved in something like that. That's exciting. And here to talk to you more about, the kind of things that they do in terms of handling all the data that they get is Johan Fourie. He is the head of data science at Mr. Price. Johan, it's my pleasure to hand over to you.
Cool. Thank you, Mandla. Let me just figure out what I'm going to share over here. Please tell me, can you guys see what I'm sharing? Anybody?
Yes, Johan, we can see it. All good, all good.
Great, thank you very much. All right. Yes, so thank you all for joining. And Ray, thanks for the overview there on our recruitment process. So today, my name is Johan Fourie and I head up the data science team here at Mr. Price. And I thought I would show you guys a quick example of a problem that we solved here at Mr. Price by using data science. We didn't choose the most complicated one, and we try to think of one that we've tackled that that would make sense to you guys, and that something that you would be familiar with as a consumer of of Mr. Price, as a consumer or as a customer of Mr. Price, you will be familiar with. So I'm just going to dive straight in. I'm quickly going to state the problem and why it's important. So just a quick overview of where we're going to go. We're going to chat about how we solved it. I'm going to share some tips that I think will be helpful for in your career, in your data science career. And then we also have Mohammed Ikram with us, who's a graduate of UKZN from computer science. He's going to dive into his background a bit more. But and then finally we'll have time for Q&A. All right, the problem that we solved, the problem that we were tasked with is that we have very long queues in our stores at busy times. I'm sure it's something that most of you have experienced. It's something that I, as a customer, find particularly frustrating. It's a very real problem. So when we were tasked with this of why do we have the long queues, there were several possible reasons. As I'm sure that some of you have experienced when you're shopping, I find it incredibly frustrating when there's 7 tills but only 2 are open, and there's a 10-person deep line at each till. So we need to one of the possible causes are all the tills open? And then you also find that are the people working fast enough? Sometimes I'm at the grocer and I happen to choose the line where somebody just decided they're going to pay their monthly bill, and they want to draw money, and they also want to return this thing, and just like those things take time. And then lastly, it's just, do we actually have enough tills? So these first 2 are always things that you can address, and they're quite relatively easy to address. So are all the tills open? If not, then open more tills, right? That's a fairly easy one to address. Are we working fast enough? There are a few tricks that we can do there, that we can, for instance, we have somebody joining the cashier there. They start taking out the hangers and start packing it into the packet while the cashier rings up and prints the slip and have you enter your bank card and all of that. So there are a handful of tricks that we can do to work faster. But the one that's not very flexible is, do you have enough tills? So we were tasked with determining the ideal number of tills for each store. It's I think it should be fairly obvious that why it is a problem. It obviously impacts the customer experience. So when you have to stand in a line for 30 minutes, by the time you get to the front, you are not a very happy customer. And you're not going to go, it sours the whole shopping experience. So just from a customer experience point of view, it's important. Also makes sense that some customers leave. I've times walked into a store and I check the queue at the tills and I'm like, no, thank you. I'll come back another day. And often I don't, or I go to a competitor. So we know that it has to also impact sales. And then the other thing is it sounds very obvious, but majority of our sales come from our busiest hours. And it's quite drastic. We've got a little Pareto curve over here. I'm not sure if you guys can see all the text here, but it is at about 20% of our hours, we make 47% of our sales. So, and just 5%, so 5% of our hours, that translates to about 3 hours a week. We make 18% of our sales. So it's quite important to get it right in those busy times. And here you can also see just kind of when we are busy. It's across the year. This is a calendar, and where it's green is where we need more tills. So you can see over here in December, we need a lot of tills. Over here in November, there towards the end is Black Friday. You'll typically see at paydays. Those are when we need it. Now, there is also a flip side to this. Tills obviously cost money. Those computers and screens that are built in there cost money. And very importantly, it takes up space. Space is a incredibly important, floor space is an incredibly important consideration in retail. It costs more rent. And when you're using that space for a till, you could have actually shown product there. You could have had more product displayed. So there's certainly a balancing act of enough tills, but not too many. All right. And yeah, just again, you can see that throughout the year, we typically only need them on weekends. We need all the tills only on a weekend, but it's pretty much almost every weekend. And again, it's just that those green blocks are incredibly important. Throughout the week, if you go there go to your Mr. Price store on a Tuesday morning, it's probably not going to be a queue at the till. And that's fine. That's when we are packing the stock and preparing the stock for when it gets crazy busy over the weekend. And that's fine. We can have that extra till sitting idle there, but it has to be ready for Saturday when it counts. Cool. Now, it sounds fairly trivial, determining the ideal number of tills, but there are a few complications. If we look at our Mr. Price apparel division, the Mr. Price clothing store, we have about 500 stores just in South Africa. And there's no way that we will know how long is the queue at every hour of every day in every store. I guess there are very cool advances made right now with computer vision. And maybe if we had cameras set up, we could determine the length of the queue. There are other options like foot counters or feet counters that we could potentially install, and we could have an idea of how many customers entered. But unfortunately, we don't have that available at the moment. And we still had to come up with an answer. So the data that we do have is when we record all of our sales. That's obviously data, very important data for us. So we could look at our sales that we've recorded, and it's also true that the sales will be constrained by the available tills. As an extreme example, if you go to the Pavilion store right now, if the Pavilion store had only one till, then we would never see more sales happening than that one till. So we understand that there is that sales that we've seen, particularly in the stores that need extra tills, the observed sales there were actually constrained, were potentially constrained by the availability of the tills. So we need to get to what is the true demand. And the solution that we took is fairly simple. We identified stores that are constrained and those that are not. So constrained stores are those that had less of a load on their till capacity throughout the year. And then we let these tills, then we let these stores show the shape of demand. And I've got a quick graph over here. This is the before and after of a certain store. The red is the after. So what we did is we identified, and if I can just quickly, I hope you guys can see the laser pointer that I have here, and that it is, I'm kind of drawing this horizontal line here. If you can imagine that horizontal line is the capacity of what you have available, then you will kind of cut off what's happening there if you only have those many tills available. And now we're trying to fill in that demand. So what we did here is we said, okay, great, let's see what the unconstrained stores look like. If they typically sell like this on a Wednesday and like this on a Thursday, where do they go to from there on a Friday? All right, so then we could see, okay, that's the shape that you should be going to. And then for this particular store, for this particular week, we can infer that your sales would have been higher up to there. This is the time of the day. If you can see the little detail there, there's be around, let's say that's like, what is that? It's like 3 p.m. or something that we would be peaking over there, and we're saying this is when you will be busier. All right, so this is how we infer. So knowing that the number of tills that you have available will constrain the sales, we then infer this. In order to identify a sales pattern, we know that there are different stores. So remember, we basically used the shape of the red line and said, let's fill in the areas where the green line is missing. We know that different stores have different trading patterns. So for instance, I'm showing here 3 different types of stores. We can see this red store on a Sunday. They trade pretty much all day. And this would be typically a Gateway or a Pavilion, those kind of stores where they are very busy on the weekends and they open until late. Here you can see they trade until 7 or 8 p.m. on a Saturday. So if we were to take those stores and say, let's go infer a shape of a very busy Sunday, and we take that to a store that's out in the countryside that's actually closed on a Sunday, then we will be inferring sales that should just never have been there. You can see the green stores here, this green line, that is your typical CBD stores. So here in town in Durban, they are very busy on a Friday and on a Saturday, but very quiet on a Sunday. And if you've ever driven around in town on a Sunday, you'll know it's very quiet. And if you go there up until noon or so, it's on a Saturday, it's very busy, and then it quiets down. While it's different for a store in Gateway or Pavilion. So so what we want to do is when we infer the shape that we have over here, when we want to infer that, we want to ensure that every store infers from stores that are similar to it. And that's now where we would apply K-means clustering. So we take all of our stores and we cluster them into stores that has a similar shape across the week. And here I just plotted three of the clusters that we came out to. We did use about, I think, as I recall now, it was 7 clusters in total that we used. And but this is now a way to identify across 500 stores, to identify the ones that have a similar shape. So, you know, it would be very hard for me sitting here in Durban to just looking at the name of a store over in Limpopo to tell what kind of store it is. So I rather let the data dictate it for us. So what we do here, so this step technically comes before the previous step, where we first cluster our stores into similar patterns, and we would use K-means clustering, and then we allow these similar shaped stores to dictate the shape for their peers within their group, if that makes sense. All right. So now the last part was, now that we have this demand of the stores, how does this demand translate into a number of tills? And the naive way of our initial thing was, surely every cashier on average operates at a similar pace. But we quickly found that it wasn't the case, and we found some predictable factors that that could predict how long a transaction would take. And in hindsight, they are very obvious. If this distribution over here shows the average transaction time for by stores. So you can see that some stores do, their average transaction takes about 120 seconds. Other stores, quite a few of them, their average transaction takes about 180 seconds. So it's 2 minutes versus 3 minutes. And that makes quite a difference. At 2 minutes, you can do 30 transactions an hour. At 3 minutes, you can only do 20 transactions an hour. So that's quite a difference. And so from there, we identified factors that predicts the duration of a transaction. So as an example, again, in hindsight, it's quite obvious, but it wasn't immediately apparent. It's the number of units on a transaction has a big effect on how long a transaction takes. So if you're coming in and you're buying only 1 unit versus somebody else coming in a bit later and they've got 10 units, that will take longer to process. The 10 units will take longer to process. I need to scan each of them. I need to take out 10 hangers. I need to get another plastic bag from under there and to put it in. So the number of units per basket has a big impact. Then there's a number of returns. So returns that have, baskets or transactions that have more returns take longer. Once again, you know, when you get there to the shop, they first have to take out that little book, and then they fill in this thing, and then you have to get the manager's authorization and all of that. So returns take longer. Other factors that we saw is that I should actually be referring to this chart here, that transactions, if I look at transactions or stores where there's about 70% of their transactions are using cards, bank cards, they take on average about 200 seconds. While stores that have a large cash component, they are, so the more cash, the lower the transaction time. So so it's basically quicker to process a cash transaction than it is to process a card transaction. And it's not, this ratio of cash and returns and units and all of that varies greatly across stores. So you can see that some stores have a very high cash percentage, majority sits over here, and some stores have a very low cash percentage. Some stores have a very high units per basket. Some stores have on average about 4 units per basket, and other stores have an average only 2 units per basket. Similarly for the returns. So these stores would be predictably a store with where a lot of people pay by card and they have a high basket value, they would predictably take longer. So here's a place where we applied regression. So we would have all of our sales data for over a long period, and we could use regression to work out on average what does every component of how long on average does it take for every component? Okay, so this is how we turn the demand that we have into a time component that tells us this is how long this transaction will take, and we can add all of those up. And now we know that in a certain hour, we've got 3.5 hours worth of labor requirement in order to process all of the transactions, which basically translates into we need 3.5 tills. So even though the one store will be doing 30 transactions and another store will be doing 20 per hour, in the end, we can translate both of those into a per till demand. Cool. That's pretty much how we, that's an example of how we applied it there. So and to illustrate here that it is, so what I want to illustrate here is how we applied like 2 data science things. We had we also applied decision trees into predicting the, well, for new stores where we didn't have sales data, we had to predict how many tills they would have. In those, we made use of decision trees. We used k-means clustering to cluster stores into similar shapes across the week. And then lastly, we use regression to be able to work out how long does it take on average to do different compositions, to process different compositions of baskets. Cool. All right, I am seeing a few questions popping up, and I'm gonna we're gonna get to those in the end. I see that Mohammed and Jackie are also answering some of them as they come up. But that's pretty much it. It's and I'm gonna move now to just, I want to share here some tips for some tips that I think will help with a successful data science career. First thing is you need to learn about the business or the industry in which you'll be working. In our case, it would be, you have to learn about retail in general, and you have to, all the competitors and different types of retailers, and you have to learn about what the other retailers are doing. You have to stay on front of that. And then you also have to learn about the specific business that you're in. So in our case, you need to learn about Mr. Price. I don't know if any of you noticed in Ray's video in the beginning, it was quite prominent about that we are cash-based retailer. So 80% of our transactions are on cash. And it's actually quite an important distinction. It translates into certain limitations in some cases. Also, it's high quality financial statements, the high quality financial results, but it also implies that we won't know as much about our customer, like if we had more of a account-based, if we had more accounts, then we would potentially know more of our customer. But now that we know that we are a cash-based customer, now we know that we need to, it's a different business model. So you have to learn about the business or the industry so that the problems that you're solving are relevant. You need to learn about data science. You need to know about the different techniques and how they are applied and what are the newest things that came along. All of this computer vision stuff was not around when I studied computer science. We did have neural networks, but yeah, they were not as advanced as they are now. They had just started with GPU training. I remember just reading about it as I graduated, so it wasn't at all there. And the only way I know about it now is I try and keep up with what's happening in the industry. Remember that we are understand the problem and keep focus on solving the problem. As a data scientist, you will not be it's tempting to get lost into the code, and that you think that you are there to write code, but you're actually there to solve the problem. And it's a very nuanced distinction, but it's quite important. So keep focus on, remember the problem that you're solving, and let that guide you throughout. Take ownership and pride in your work. By ownership, it's like, place yourself in the shoes of your customer, whether it's internal customer or whether it's the actual consumer, and ensure that you are staying relevant and that you are solving the problem as if you were the owner of that. So if you owned this business, how would you solve this problem? How would you want this to work? Be curious. Be curious about new techniques in data science, but also about what you're seeing in the data. When you see something surprising, then dig further. Try and understand why is it that, I remember when I first saw that some of our stores are taking longer to process transactions than others. I saw that it was our biggest stores, it was our flagship stores, our best stores, and I was like, oh no, are our Pavilion and Gateway stores doing a terrible job? And then when I dig into that, I realized, oh well, it's just because they sell more units per basket. And you got to be curious to dig into that. Be critical of your own work. That goes towards delivering reliable work. So be skeptical of your own work. If you've got a simple mental model of that talks to of expectations, majority of the time that little expectation that you have will be more accurate than the very complex code that you just wrote. And know that complex code is most likely heading to not most likely, it is there are, in very long and complex code, there's more space for mistakes to be made. And if you compare that to a simple thought process where you've got set a certain expectation, as an example, my expectation was that Gateway and Pavilion would be faster. And when I saw this, my first thing was, oh no, I made a mistake. And then I realized, oh no, it's the underlying thing. So be critical of your own work. That'll help you deliver reliable work. Calibrate yourself. I mentioned setting expectations. When I say setting expectations, it could be when I go look at the data, I say, oh, I expect sales to be busiest on a Saturday. Now, when I look at it, is it? Yes, in fact, it is. And you will tune your business sense by calibrating yourself. So make a little prediction, run the query, run the data, see the result, and then say, oh, was I right or wrong? And you will calibrate yourself like that. Be patient. It ties in with the calibrate yourself. We all, 2 weeks after starting your job, you think, oh no, I should be a CEO next week. And but be patient and know that you will grow. Reflect on your journey occasionally and see what you did recently. And then the most important thing, or the biggest thing, if you want to start a career in data science, and particularly if you find that people are looking for different, they're looking for more experience than what you have, for instance, go and start working on something. Find a project and do it. Recently, Corona has been top of mind for all of us. During Corona, I made my own COVID charts and things, and I wanted to see what's going on. So go find a project, something that you're interested in, and do it. Okay, cool. Sorry, I just saw one of the questions here in the chat. I'm going to hand over to. I want to say one last thing on this project. We are working with UKZN, with the AI guys, Edgar, and we provided them with some data for their CAES, or I don't know if I'm pronouncing that properly, conference, and where we've got a forecasting problem there. if you want a project, go try and work on that one. So that was a shameless plug. And I want to hand over to Mohammed now. I think I overran a little bit, and I apologize, Mohammed. Cool.
Over to you, Mohammed. Looking forward to hear what you have to say. Just while Mohammed gets ready, students, this is an alumni of ours. He's a master's in computer science graduate. It's so exciting to have him here to talk to you about his journey at Mr. Price. Looking forward to hear what you have to say, Mohammed.
Okay, thank you so much. So good afternoon to everyone. My name is Mohammed. So yeah, what has been my journey from UKZN to now? What has been my career journey and experience? So my journey has been fairly simple. I did my Bachelor of Science, Computer Science degree at UKZN, my honors as well. Then for my master's, I started at UKZN full-time on a full-time basis. Then at 2019, I had the opportunity of working with Mr. Price on a full-time basis as a data scientist, when I completed my master's degree thereafter on a part-time basis in 2020. And so I am in a unique position in that I've been, I would say, exposed to and given the privilege of being able to explore different tools and not just restricted to what we currently use. So I can explore and see what will make our life easier as data scientists. And so these are some of the tools that I've been able to make use of. So from the programming language point of view, it's R and Python and SQL. R was new to me. At university, it was more of an introduction to it. And then working at Mr. Price, I've seen a lot more than that. So it's a very powerful language. And then for the exploration of data, we have Excel and Tableau. Excel being the more commonly used, more easy to be able to view your data, do an error analysis and what have you. And then from a version control point of view, so to be able to track the changes you make, to revisit previous commits revisit previous version of the code base, we have Git for that. And then for the big data analysis, where you look into like millions of rows of data, you have Spark in that front. But quite recently, also Snowflake is also playing in that front now, where they have tools that you can make use of specifically within Python, where you can analyze and query millions of rows of data. And from a data warehouse point of view, I've been able to play with both Hive and Snowflake, as well as be able to use Docker to create images to deploy particular projects to the cloud. And then I have Microsoft Azure there, which is quite vague, given that it's a cloud platform, but I've been able to play around on the platform itself to try different tools that they offer and services that they offer on the platform itself, some of them being like Databricks, Data Factory, and the like. And so, well, from experience point of view at Mr. Price, it's been quite vast. I've worked on various projects across the board, which span across the different divisions that Ray had mentioned before, as well as different functions within the business itself. So some of the functions are marketing, customer relations, which deals with customer feedbacks. We're going through the comments and getting a feel of what their opinions of the stores, merchandise systems, logistics, so towards receiving of goods at our distribution center, determining what is the best time to be receiving and which particular appointment to receive. And then for collaboration, so I didn't work just in my team of data scientists. I worked across the business. And so I collaborated with both technical and business users. And towards this, I learned that when you're communicating with people in different fields and different technicalities, you have to speak their language. So I can't go and start speaking to them in programming or data science. I have to speak in the language that they're familiar with. And sometimes it's simple English. So I had to get accustomed to that mindset of being able to be between two worlds. And then from a working point of view, So I just have a few points over there: refactoring, understand the problem, reproducibility, setting expectation, and testing. So all of these tie together when working on a particular project. So when refactoring, you change the code, but at the end of the day, the results should be the same. And so towards that, you have to have a test in place to make sure of it. With understanding the problem, that was something that initially was I didn't quite easily grasp, but then later on, it became more natural in terms of asking the why. So why am I doing this particular project? Why do we have to do this or do that? So that was a very key question to always keep in the back of my mind when I work on a project. And then reproducibility, it's towards when you work on complex projects, just having a way of saying, is this correct? What am I seeing, is that correct? And so having a simple in Excel, having a simple setup with your data and simple formula to be like, okay, the formula is working as expected, or no, I actually did a multiplying instead of addition, what have you. So having that in place, and then expectation, as Johan had mentioned before, always have an expectation of, when I'm doing this particular part of the project, I expect this to be the outcome at the end of it. And then from the algorithms and libraries that I've worked on, so from algorithms, I have worked on simulated annealing, genetic algorithms, regression, specifically more on the linear regression side, clustering, tree, for the name of it now. And then from the libraries for Python, it's towards your common packages of NumPy, Pandas, TensorFlow, and then recently Snowflake, Snowpark. And then for R, there was one package that actually is on its own is very powerful, which is the tidyverse, which allows you to do both your data manipulation as well as string manipulation, as well as it also offers graphing or plotting for you. And towards a particular project that I've worked on at the beginning was the optimal tilts per store, which Johan spoke about. And I had the opportunity of revisiting it this year to produce the new recommendation for stores. And when I was looking at the code, I was thinking about it like, wow, I've come quite far. Back then, I coded, didn't understand what I was doing, but I coded. And then now looking back, I was like, okay, I've grown quite a bit. I questioned quite a few things I've done, but I can see that I have grown a lot then from now. And yeah, that's it from me. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mohammed. There we have it. You've heard from our alumni, and it's so great to hear about his journey and the specific details about the kind of stuff that he does. We've now reached the time where we get to look at some of your questions. I can see some of them have already been answered, but perhaps, Johan, there were a few that were posed that were technical. If you can help us with that. I saw there were also some questions about the work WEP program. Mohammed has tried to answer some of those in terms of, when does it start? But perhaps, Mohammed, if you can come in after Johan, I think a burning question there is, who exactly is the target of this program? Are you open to all IT, mathematics, is there a specific focus of a kind of a graduate there? But firstly, perhaps we can give Johan a chance. The two questions that came up is how do you ensure data integrity and cleaning prior to analysis? And then a technical question there on the clustering in terms of how do you choose the number of clusters? I hope you can assist me.
Yeah, so I did have a quick stab under Mohammed's name. I used his computer there to take a quick stab at the data integrity and data cleaning. It's a very good question. I think Mohammed touched on some of the things that we do towards integrity, and I would say it's about the call it principles borrowed from software engineering, about how do you go about producing reliable software. And I think we use the same thing there. So we use a lot of refactoring. I did say earlier that it is so generally it's very complex code, and very complex code leads to issues. So once we have, as we work incrementally on a problem, it's pretty much at every little milestone we say, we trust what we have here, so let's handle with care, let's use refactoring, and make our changes in a way that will be where we can, let's first prepare the code for the next change, then go make the change, and is it, are the changes that we're seeing as we're expecting. Refactoring would be a big thing. It's just understanding the problem. It's just setting expectations where it's so easy to make enormous mistakes here where you misjoin the data, or where all of a sudden you would expect all of a sudden you see there's 10,000 days in a year. That's clearly wrong. You need to have this expectation of 365 days or 366 days a year. It's a stupid example, but it's that kind of thing happens in more Mr. Price specific examples would be that we want to see about between 2 or 3 or 4 units per transaction. When we see that there's 10 units or 20 or 50 units per transaction, and we think, okay, something probably went wrong. When we see on average 0.2 units per transaction, we also know that's definitely wrong, because surely everybody must buy at least one thing. So it would be those kind of things that towards data integrity. Data cleaning, we don't have any exact methodologies, but it is constantly being curious and interrogating the data and trying to understand the data better. All of those steps goes towards ultimately understanding the data that you constantly interrogating the data will highlight for you certain things that you need to, outliers or whatever, in the data cleaning process.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Johan. That's some great insights. I like the emphasis there in terms of the testing, and that perhaps answers some of the questions that have come through in terms of ensuring the quality of the software. The key there is testing. And we also emphasize that a lot in our courses. So there you have it, students. You can see some of these concepts, they continue beyond your learning experience. Mohammed, do you want to come in there? There's people that are curious to find out about your typical work day. How many hours do you work? And perhaps you can also tell us, some of your workmates, what are their backgrounds in terms of their undergraduate degrees and so forth.
Okay, yeah. So the work day, it's typically from 8 to 4:30 with a lunch break. And in terms of the hours, I would say given the hours, it's probably 8 hours, but typically it can vary because there's the social element of the workplace as well, where you will go for a lunch break and you'll bump into someone you meet along the way or someone new, and you chat with them. So it's typically 8, I would say, but it can vary to be a little bit less sometimes, given if you interacting with other people. What's the other part of it?
What
kind of
qualifications of people?
Oh yes, qualifications. I think we've had from engineering backgrounds.
Wow.
I would say mechanical engineer. We've had from the maths background as well. Someone join as well. So it's
awesome.
Engineering, business science we've had in the past.
Economics.
I would say on that, anything goes in my view.
Awesome.
Data science, we know, touches on several fields. So let's call it stats, computer science, and business. So and I know that UKZN now has a very nice data science graduate program, but that didn't used to exist until fairly recently. So we've never really cared for what your exact qualification is. We want to know that you are good in at least one of these and in one of these subfields, and that you can demonstrate to us that you will be able to pick up the rest.
Awesome. That makes so much sense, Johan. Thank you so much. So there you have it, students. It's actually about the skills that you have and less about the actual qualification. It is an interdisciplinary field, you know, so the competition is wide open. So do make use of the tips that you've heard today. Everyone, we've come to the end of the Tech Talk. It is past 1 now. I'd like to take the opportunity to express my sincere thanks to Mr. Price, you know, for coming through, sharing of your knowledge, sharing of your tips with our students, and most importantly, giving jobs to our students. Thank you very much. Students, I hope you will utilize this opportunity. I hope you've been inspired. And what's left of me is just to remind you that this is only one of many Tech Talks. We have our next Tech Talk on the 31st of August, where we'll be hosting Alan Gray, where we also have some of our former students working there. So thank you, everyone. I'd like to refer you to Mr. Price's website, I believe, for further details in case you'd like to follow in terms of employment opportunities and the like. So Johan and the team, thank you so much. Mohammed, thank you for coming through, and good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you all. It's been a pleasure.